let's look back a little bit before we look forward to the Mavs matchup in the Western Conference Final. They got it done in Game 6 on Saturday evening at the AAC versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. That was a game which saw the Thunder go up by 17 points. At some point during last week, I mentioned that the Thunder had not shot below 33, or they had shot below 33% from three in 4 straight games only once, which was during this series. During the rest of this season, they had not had a 4-game stretch shooting that poorly from 3. And so you had to have known that them knocking down shots would happen. But it speaks to just how good this Mavericks defense has gotten, that in the course of that basketball game on Saturday, the one that the Mavs won 117-116, the Thunder shot about 37% from 3. Your Mavericks still get a victory 117-116.
Yeah, there was just a feeling in the arena, us both being there, that even though they were down 17, at least I got this feeling that the game just wasn't over. It was just like, it felt like the Mavs played one of the worst first halves they could have played, and the Thunder didn't fully capitalize. And I know they had the 17-point lead, but it felt like it could have been way larger. There was one time in the second quarter, Reggie, I don't know if you remember this. I can't exactly remember pinpoint when it was, but the Thunder had the ball, and it got like tipped out, then they got it back. Then it was a foul, they got it back. It was like they were down there for like 3 to 4 real minutes live of just being on offense and the Mavs having to defend. And I don't remember if they ended up scoring or not, but either way, like it just felt like all the momentum was with the Thunder.
All right, you're gonna lose me on that one. You know.
Okay, not moment. It felt like everything was going their way, I'll say that. And the Dallas Mavs still had kept it close, and then they came right out of halftime. They hit a 3 with Kyrie. Luka got going. It just felt like if they didn't pull away, we've seen this story before. What was it? The 30-point comeback during the regular season, where the Thunder were up 30 and the Mavs came back and they obviously ended up losing, but they brought it all the way back. So I just think this was, at the end of the day, you need your star players to step up, and Luka at the end of the game took over, and we know about how PJ Washington standing on business.
Yeah, man.
0 points and then hits 2 big threes.
Yeah, I think that you speak to one of those things that you said up in the arena, it didn't feel like that game was over. Depending on who you were polling, right? Mm-hmm. If you were gauging the temperature of the fan base, and I don't mean this as any disrespect to the people in the arena, I understand why you look up and you go, oh wow, the Thunder are connecting on things that they hadn't.
Next to the media people I was saying next, I'll say from my point.
Right, because I think that there was a lot of people in that building that got pretty quiet during the course of that game. And again, I'm not shading the people in the arena. I understand how you get to that place where you're like, oh goodness, this is a Thunder team that is a number 1 in the West and that is playing a lot better than they had played during the series. But if you pull those dudes on that bench, you could tell that there was never a doubt in their minds that they could win that game. And that's what matters. That's the way that they play during the course of this. And I want to play a little audio here because I think it points to one of the things that's been incredible about this team. When you have a defensive strategy that says a team is going to try and take away Luka, they're going to try and take away Kyrie, and they're going to try and take away the rim, lobs and those types of things. What they're now daring you is you're going to have to knock down shots, other guys, and you made them pay, particularly this man, Derrick Jones Jr.
Irving, shot blocked, gathered by Jones at 1 to shoot. Jones makes it as the buzzer sounds. What a series for Derrick Jones, 5-point game.
Yeah, Derrick Jones Jr. in the course of this game, he played incredible himself. 8 of 13, a big 22 points in that one, a plus 18 if we're looking at plus minus, which I don't know necessarily what that matters with. But yeah, man, this is a team that they can win in a lot of different ways, and I've been thoroughly impressed by the ways that the other guys have stepped up when necessary in this series and in this playoff run.
We can't say it enough, Reggie. Luka and Kyrie, I think, would both say out loud that was not their best playoff series, both of them.
Oh no, and if they did try and say that, you'd have to call them outright liars.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure they would be honest. Kyrie knows that wasn't his bad. Not saying they played bad, but just to the standard we hold them, that was definitely not their best series. And the fact that outside of a game 1 blowout loss, realistically, you probably should have won 4 in a row. Now you choked the one with the free throws in game 5 that you could have won, but
game 4 rather.
Game 4.
Yeah,
my apologies. And then you end up winning that last 2. It just felt like the Mavs were the better team, but you had role players stepping up game after game. You had PJ at the beginning, who I don't know if you'd have told anyone that their leading scorer would be PJ Washington 3 games in a row. They'd be, they lost by 40. No, they won all of those, or I think they might have lost one of those. And then Derrick Jones Jr. comes on late and is giving you 15 plus every night. And the two guys I just named happen to be your best defenders too. Those guys are doing on the other end, trying their best to stop SGA and Jalen Williams and even occasionally Chet. And they're still giving you quality buckets on the other side. And I think the big thing is like for role players, you can see that they miss 2 or 3. Maybe a coach pulls them. Maybe they lose their confidence. PJ had not scored until 4 minutes left when he hit that corner 3. Like, to still be that locked in, I think just speaks to the testament of this team. And then Derrick Jones Jr., I mean, he's literally was like a 5-tool player in that game. He's dunking the ball. He's getting steals. He's in the passing lanes. He's finishing. He's passing, defending. He honestly is like, he might have been one of the best role players so far in these playoffs, if not the best. I mean, he's doing everything you could want from an Alfred, as JJ Redick likes to refer to, as just kind of one of those role players. But PJ and him were anything but role players.
And I mean, it's deeper than just those two. You can talk about various other players. I mean, they were the big ones that show up, especially as they are also starters. So they're going to get a lot of those minutes. But it speaks to how this organization, starting at Nico Harrison, getting to Jason Kidd, even the assistants, your stars or your vocal leaders on this team, they all have put a level of belief on every single player on that roster. It's not just the guys that we know. Every single player, they're like, we trust you. We are going to need you at some point during the course of this series. We believe in you, whether you're knocking down shots or not. Obviously, you can look anecdotally at Kyrie Irving going to Derek Lively in a break and saying, hey, man, you don't have to run from that foul. We don't care what that free throw percentage is. We see you work on that. We trust you. We believe in you. And you see how, I mean, maybe you say it isn't exactly why, but it seemed like that translated into some level of confidence. And you can see P.J. Washington, since the trade deadline, they have talked to him in such a way where we need you to shoot those threes. We believe you can knock them down. And when other teams looked at the percentages, and reasonably so, looked at a 32% three-point shooter over the season, they go, we don't trust you. The Mavericks said, we trust you to knock those shots, take them confidently, and he did, and that's factored in. And that comes, again, back to the ways in which they built this team. And Luka Doncic was asked after this game how appreciative he was for the Mavs continuing to try and bring pieces around him.
Big time. You can see this group has been together for like 5 months. Like I say, we're capable of more and more, I think. But just a big time trades, big time adjustment, and keep bringing them.
I love Luka. It's short, but it speaks volumes to what he has been wanting. When you have a superstar player like this, when you have a top 5 player in the entire planet, or on the entire planet, I guess would be the way to say that.
Yeah, it still works.
It's either one. You have to build around it, whether they're young, old, whatever. You have to build a championship team around them because they are going to want the best on their teams. They're not okay with mediocrity. You saw Luka, how mad he was for missing the playoffs. Now that was to get Derek Lively and rebuild the roster and whatnot. But either way, these guys don't want to miss the playoffs. They don't want to be like, oh, let's rebuild and I'm going to see the vision through. When you're a top 5 player, you want to be competing for all NBAs and NBA finals and building your legacy. And so the fact that they're showing, even though you're 25, we are going to build the best possible team we can with the resources we have. And who's to say they don't do more and more this offseason? But I thought that the pieces they brought in were integral, of guys that can play make. Guys, we've been talking about this for years. They need a lengthy wing, and they go and get PJ. We didn't know who Derrick Jones Jr. was going to become, but Derrick Jones Jr., they go and draft. We're going to go get a big man. We've had maybe subpar since Tyson Chandler's been here, big man. We're going to invest and go get Daniel Gafford. Like, all the holes that the Mavs had in my head that I thought I was just, am I crazy? Am I the only one that sees this? How did the Mavs not see this? They go, addressed. You want another playmaker? Kyrie. Like, they're really leaving it where, yes, the guys still have to perform.
Yeah.
But as far as a roster building side, they've left not a lot of holes on the scene where, oh, they need this type of guy or they need that type of guy. It's not some glaring hole to me as it once was years before. And I'm sure Luka is appreciative that that's no longer such a glaring issue.
Yeah, and I think the big thing also when you talk about that is they kind of went from a gardener's approach of, I may not see the full plant, but I know what this seed can grow into, right? You can talk about that with PJ in the ways that people looked at him with Charlotte and said, that dude can't play defense. That dude's not a shooter.
LOL.
And look at what he is, what he's grown to with the right fertile soil, right? You could say the same thing. Derrick Jones Jr. kind of been a journeyman of sorts. So we've seen him do some nice things, but not to this degree. He's
not to this degree.
Nicely
anywhere close
this offseason because of it. And then I would like to stop down and talk about this young man who I think there was a little bit of respect for, but when he was drafted at number 12 overall this past offseason, I don't know how much belief there was in him, especially in coming in a first season and making an impact. But Derek Lively II has grown in an incredible way. And I think the question I have is not to like kind of just settle in on what he has grown into now. What does it feel like he can grow into going forward? Because in this series, he was the better of your centers, and maybe that's just a matchup situation with Gafford. I'm not trying to say anything bad about him. He's still 25 and has a lot of situation. Gafford. But like at times, you saw the Oklahoma City Thunder, an admittedly smaller team than you, and we saw this also with the Clippers. So this is not entirely just about the Thunder. Realize very early in the series that they were not going to be able to get all the way to the rim, and so I thought the Thunder did a good job of this in Game 6, but they looked up and they go, we're on our initial drive, we're just going to have to bait Lively up and then pass around him and see if we can get that secondary pass to get to the rim, which they did decently, but the acknowledgement, the tacit acknowledgement from another team that we cannot go one-to-one with that dude in the paint, I think that spells some big things for Derek Lively. Like, I'm looking at it during the course of this series and sitting at the end of the series like, does this dude have the potential of being a defensive player of the year?
Yeah.
At some point?
The sky's the limit for Derek Lively. I mean, we could do a whole segment on him. There was a million stats coming out, highest plus minus by any rookie. Most, what do you have, 10 points, 15 rebounds. Only players to do that in elimination game as rookies, Magic Johnson and David Robinson.
Yeah, that's some good company.
Like, the list goes on and on. He was spectacular. And what I see from him on the court that I think separates him from Gafford for why he had the highest plus minus out of any single player that played in that Oklahoma City Mavs series was he's just a little bit better of a decision maker. He does get at times where he rushes and it's like you can see the rookie nerves, but when he hones in and it's not like the first couple minutes, he is a really polished decision maker, if that makes sense. So he'll sometimes get flustered and mess up, but once he does lock in and he's all in to himself, he'll make that right read, whether that's kicking to the left or right corner, whether that's taking that up and under layup, whether that's just dunking on the guy. And so I think when he has this confidence under him, you see a very polished player, and it's crazy to say as a rookie. I mean, he even has a little bit of a floater game, has a hook, obviously a 7-1 can finish. He's aggressive on the board, so
he can play a little bit on the perimeter if he gets out there.
Yep, because that's the thing. When you have Gafford, we saw SGA just went literally right by him. With Lively, is there a better chance they're going by him than most players on the team? Yes, but is it just a guarantee that your center's getting blown by? Not exactly. Lively is pretty good laterally quick, so he's a guy that can, even if he does get beat, he has that long wingspan, that 7'6" wingspan where he can contest a shot at the rim and kind of get that chase down behind the back block. So for me with Lively, we see him shooting threes in practice. The sky's the limit. If people forget he is a rookie, we thought we were a year out of like this team even being close to contending, and it's like you have all these veteran minimum guys, rookies that are getting big time minutes. So shout out to Nico Harrison.
Shout out to Jason Kidd. Again, another team that he's taken to the Western Conference Finals based on defense. When you give him the things, like I think that's another takeaway from this series is, hey man, Jason Kidd deserves his things when it comes to, can he put together a team defense? Yes, just give him a little bit of what he needs, and that's what's been done, man. A shout out to these Western Conference Finals bound Dallas Mavericks on vanquishing the Oklahoma City Thunder, a team that gave you a really good shot towards the end. I think that's the thing I want to leave off on is that it's a Mavericks team that decided that they would not just go quietly, right? They easily could have in the course of this game packed it up and said, all right, it's fine. We still have a Game 7 that we can go play. They went and chased down a win in Game 7 to end it. And I had a criticism for them when it came to Game 4 and Game 5 in the ways that they left the door open. Game 4, the Thunder walked through it. Game 5, they didn't. Or rather, 4 they didn't. Or 4 they did, 5 they didn't. But they left those doors open. They went and closed it in this one. I think that is something that's necessary if they want to be champions.
And that's the team you're playing, a team that also knows how to come chase back a comeback. Largest comeback in playoff history, or in Western. Wait, what? Not playoff history. It was the Timberwolves, right? I don't want to quote the wrong stat. It was the largest comeback. I don't think playoff history. I think that might be the wrong quotations.
Biggest comeback in a Game 7.
Game 7. I was like, I remember it was one of them. And you had the Timberwolves. So you got another team that's not going to quit. You're up by 20. Does not mean much against the Timberwolves.